The only person who has the power to change your status or your position is not God, it's you. As long as you're comfortable serving, as long as you're comfortable being a general worker, as long as you're comfortable with minimum wage, as long as you're comfortable without creativity, as long as you're comfortable in poverty, as long as you're comfortable with lack, as long as you're comfortable with just enough money to survive, as long as you're comfortable in a one-roomed house, as long as you're comfortable with your current status, you will remain there. God will watch you there. God will watch you live there, and He cannot do anything about it until you are agitated about where you are, and you bestir yourself and you say, no more nonsense in my life, no more poverty in my life, no more debt in my life, no more discomfort in my life. Anything that you fight for, God will give you the right to keep. And as long as you think being in debt is okay, God's not going to change it for you. You have the right to everything you're fighting for. Precondition means something must come or must happen or must be true or is necessary to a subsequent result. Did you hear that? That's precondition. Something must come or must happen or must be true or is necessary to a subsequent result. Oh my goodness, I could go to town on that one. What is that? What does this mean? We're claiming financial increase. How many of us want financial increase? You want more money, you need more money, you need financial success. Okay, great. So what is the precondition of financial increase? We love to claim scripture as believers, and that's good. I am prosperous. God shall supply all my needs. But for Philippians 1 verse 19 to be real, my God shall supply all your need according to His riches in glory. What was the precondition? The precondition was, in the beginning of my ministry, no other church communicated, reciprocated, was on the same page with me concerning giving and receiving except you only. For you gave not once, not twice, but many times. So because of their giving, because of their, what were the words? Giving and receiving. No other church was on the same page with me concerning giving and receiving except you. And because of that, verse 19 comes into play. My God, because of that, my God shall supply all your need according to His riches in glory. You have met the precondition. You have met the requirements. Something is in place. Something has happened. Something is true about your position. That which is necessary for a subsequent result. So the result is resultant to the fact that you've met the requirements. Say amen to that. Some of you still have 87 amens. I'm about to close. You should be on about 20 amens by now. Come on, make use of your amens. So now this brings us to our story that Sister Ella read for us so eloquently last week. In Genesis chapter 27, we see a man called Isaac who has two sons, Esau and Yaakov. The two sons representing or portending something that was in the future that was going to happen in the church, represented by the Son of Promise, Jesus Christ, and the Gentiles, those that were against the covenants of God. Good so far? So, Isaac one day was sitting there And he begins to think. The Bible says he realized, I am about to die. It says, I know not the time of my death. I know not when I am going to die. In Jewish sagery, they actually have a very interesting belief that when your age approaches, when your age in life approaches that of your father or your mother, between 5 years prior, 5 years after, there is a high likelihood that death may visit you, unless you have done something to make it different. That's a whole lesson in of itself. So if you know your father died at 50 and now you're at about 40, 45, what happens to a lot of us is fear begins to settle in. You go into a fear mode that says, yo, my father died at about 50, so maybe I'm also going to die. And that's why we hear this in a lot of people's languages. Your system becomes compliant and begins to prepare for death. So even if there was no cause of death, your system will say it's time to cease living by virtue of the fear that you have created. Okay, it's a lesson for another day, but I just thought, let me throw that in. So Esau and Jacob are born. Now the father is saying, I'm about to go. I'm approaching the age that I know my father died. So now I must get myself ready. To get ready, let me pass on the blessing to my son. And by virtue of protocol, the blessing is supposed to go to the firstborn. And we know the drama of Esau and Isaac in the womb, and Esau eventually comes out first, and he comes out as the firstborn. And the Bible says Esau, meaning Edom, his other name was Edom, which means red, dark in texture, earthy. He was a rough man, tough man, so hairy, his skin was similar to the skin of a goat. But he was dark textured. He was dark in complexion. Red, Edom. That was his name. Is that correct? Okay. So now you have two sons. The firstborn, the tough guy, and the secondborn, Yaakov, the one who is your gentle, sweet, mama's boy, soft kind of guy. So the father is thinking one day, and it says that he had become old and blind. So there he is sitting and thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to sort this thing out? And he realizes, I need to pass on the blessing. So he calls his son and he says, Esau. And he comes and he says, here I am. And he says, prepare, sharpen your weapons, and go and get some game, such as I love, and prepare it for me, that I may eat it in the presence of God and bless you. Mama is walking past the door and she sees a conversation between the husband and the second loved son. Firstborn but second loved by the mother. Firstborn and first loved by the father. So she hears the conversation and then she says, he's about to get the blessing before the father dies. I want my son to get the blessing. So she goes and she says, Jacob, this is what I want you to do. I overheard your father saying to your brother, go and get me game such as I love, prepare it and I will eat it. And when I am in a state of bliss, I will bless you. That's really nice. So the mother then says, I want you to do this. Go to the animals in the backyard. Get two of them that are good, healthy, strong, full of life, and bring them to me. Let's prepare them, and I will prepare the meal according to how I know your father loves it. I've been married to him for a long time, and I know how he prefers his favorite food. The son says, Mom, but what if, because my brother Esau is hairy and tough, he's got the smell of somebody who's been out hunting and strong, and here I am, I've got you to perfume, I'm smelling sweet, and I've got Hugo Boss or fragrance on me. My dad will know the difference of the voice and the difference of the smell and the difference of our skin texture. The mother says, no, I've already thought of that. After you've killed the animal, we'll put the skin on your body, so when he touches you, he feels that it is your brother, and you are going to get his clothes that he took off the last time he came from hunting. I haven't put them in the washing machine yet, so they're still smelling like his tough, rough, sweaty body. You put those on, and then when you go into your father's presence and you give him the food, he is going to be in a state of bliss, and he will bless you. In the event that he speaks a curse on you, that curse I will assume, I will take it on me. The sacrifice of a mother. So he believes and he decides, okay, let me go and get this thing done. He catches the animals, brings them, they prepare the food, get everything ready. The brother's just finished sharpening his stuff, and he's gone out into the field, and he's catching whatever he's catching. And by the time he gets back, the Bible says his brother had just gotten the blessing. So now he gets the blessing. The blessing has been defined as the empowerment of God to prosper. He's received the blessing. What blessing did he receive? He received the blessing of the firstborn. There was a difference between the blessing of the firstborn and the blessing of the one who carries the mantle. That's really exciting stuff. So what he gets is the blessing of the firstborn. He says to him, he blesses him, and he says, your brothers shall serve you, and you shall be master over them. And as soon as the blessing has been spoken, and I've already taught you before about the little issue when the father came in, when he came into the father, and he says, Father, I have come. And he says, who are you? And he says, I'm Esau, your son, your firstborn. I have come with the food that you may bless me, that you may eat it and bless me, that you may eat it and bless me. He couldn't bless him before he ate. The blessing couldn't be given until there was eating. The divine protocol of the blessing is the blesser must eat first. Woo. Hallelujah. So he eats. In fact, while there was that process, he then says, how come you are back so soon? And he says, when I went out into the field, God blessed me. Now, a word that was not synonymous with his language. So the father says, the voice is that of Jacob. The texture, the skin, the smell is that of Esau. But the voice, in Hebrew, doesn't say voice, it says language. I feel you're the right person, but your language is wrong. Esau doesn't talk about blessing. Esau doesn't talk about Yad, Hey, Vav, Hey, Jehovah blessing him. Esau was an arrogant, self-righteous, egotistical, self-promoting person. His language had nothing to do with who God was. His language had nothing to do with the power and the ability of God. So the moment he says, God has blessed me and helped me to catch something soon, the father suspected something's wrong. This son is not used to talking about the blessing. So now that he's saying blessing, there's something that is out of sync. What's your language like? Is your language the language of the blessing? That's why you must mark your Bible, underline those scriptures, and change your language to the right language so that when you speak, your Father can identify you. The problem with some of you is when you open your mouth, your words and where you are and what you're desiring, there is a dichotomy, there's a quandary, there's a gap. It's not fitting. Azviskusangana. Eventually he says, come here, let me kiss you. Because in kissing you, I have proximity. I can touch you. I can smell you. The smell is the smell of the fields that the Lord has blessed, which was the blessing that was spoken. So eventually he gets the blessing, gets out of the presence, and immediately Esau comes in. And he says, Father, I have come that you may eat and bless me. And he says, who are you? He says, I'm Esau, your firstborn. Okay, now I hear your language. I'm Esau, your firstborn. I hear your arrogance. I hear your cockiness. So this must be the correct Esau. And the Bible says, and Isaac trembled. He trembled greatly. And as he trembled greatly, he began to realize, and he says, was my brother here? He has cheated me again. Is not his name Yaakov accurately? Supplanter, one who comes underhandedly to get what is not his. But he says, I have already blessed him, and he shall be blessed. In other words, what I have done is irrevocable, irreversible, cannot be changed. It is established. He is blessed and he will be blessed. That blessing that he has gotten will manifest. So he says to him, in blessing him, I have made him your master. In other words, you're going to serve him. You're going to serve him. You're going to serve your brother. You're the older brother, but you're going to serve him. The reason you're going to serve him is because you didn't understand the value of what you were supposed to get. You didn't prioritize what you were supposed to get. You didn't prioritize the blessing that was supposed to come to you. You despised your position as the firstborn and sold your birthright for a bowl of red soup, which was a violation of divine order, because that red soup was only prepared during funerals or times of mourning. So it had been prepared in preparation for mourning of the death of Abraham. So now he gets home and he breaches protocol and he eats the food that was not supposed to be eaten until his father Isaac authorized the eating in commemoration of the death of their father. So his cockiness cost him his inheritance. Joe. So he gets a blessing. Now he's crying to his father. He says, Father, bless me indeed. I need a blessing. He says, I've already blessed you. He says, don't you have another blessing? Do you only have one blessing? There must be another blessing. He wept for a blessing. And then he was given another blessing. But he says, the fact that I've already spoken and said, your brother, you will serve your brother, that cannot be reversed except when you become so agitated that you break yourself out of that. The only person who has the power to change your status or your position is not God, it's you. As long as you're comfortable serving, as long as you're comfortable being a general worker, as long as you're comfortable with minimum wage, as long as you're comfortable without creativity, as long as you're comfortable in poverty, as long as you're comfortable with lack, as long as you're comfortable with just enough money to survive, as long as you're comfortable in a one-roomed house, as long as you're comfortable with your current status, you will remain there. God will watch you there. God will watch you live there, and He cannot do anything about it until you are agitated about where you are, and you bestir yourself and you say, no more nonsense in my life, no more poverty in my life, no more debt in my life, no more discomfort in my life. Anything that you fight for, God will give you the right to keep. And as long as you think being in debt is okay, God's not going to change it for you. You have the right to everything you're fighting for. No, Pastor, are you saying that we mustn't borrow money? No. You want to borrow money? God's not going to fight with you. You have the right to remain in poverty as long as you desire it. You have the right to remain sick as long as you want it. As long as you want to eat that food and drink that stuff, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and okay, Prince, where are you? As long as you don't come, I won't close. So do you mind if I give you principle number 1 and then we are done? Just one principle, Akir. Just one. I've got 10 of them. I'm going to give you one. It's a heavy one, so I need you to go home and digest it. So when you come back next week, you are ready for number 2 to number 10. Is that okay? Let's give you principle number 1. If you're going to live the blessed life, you must have a revelation of the power of the blessing. Esau didn't. Esau didn't have a revelation of the power of the blessing. He didn't have a revelation. He didn't have an understanding of what it is that God was making available to him. He didn't know that the productivity and the increase of the earth was dependent on the blessing. He was strong. He knew I could work for stuff. Next week, maybe next week if we have an opportunity, I'll show you the difference between the two blessings. One enabled one to get prosperity and increase. One gave the other the power of wealth. The one who has the power of wealth will rule over the one who has prosperity. That is why what Esau got brought him increase. But what Yaakov got gave him dominion. You've got to have a revelation. How well do you understand this thing called the blessing? How well do you understand that you are blessed? Being blessed without the revelation of being blessed does not make the blessing efficacious, workable, real in your life. Do you have a revelation of what the blessing is and what it can do? Jacob learned from his mother that the key to success and his ability to carry forth the nation promised to Abraham was the blessing. He learned and he got the revelation. He had to. The final lesson was that lesson when they sat together and his mother said, you got to do this. You've got to be willing to lose your life to get this thing called the blessing. Because once you have the blessing, you are unkillable. Esau didn't understand this. That's why as the firstborn with the privileges of the firstborn, he thought he was going to die if he did not eat that soup. If he knew what he carried, if he had a revelation of what he carried, he knew that he would have known that death did not have the power to hold him back. Listen, the only reason you don't tithe is because you don't understand the power of the blessing. Because you think if you don't tithe, the money that you hold back will sustain you. Because you are afraid to let go of the 10%. Because you are afraid that if you let go of the 10%, the landlord is going to kill you. I would rather fall in the hands of God than in the hands of a landlord. You got to catch a rebel. Hey, Brakeshakata, keep smiling. If you keep smiling, we won't know that you're not tithing. It's okay, just keep smiling. Just keep the smile on your face. Once you catch a revelation of the blessing, you will do anything to protect this atmosphere called the blessing, this empowerment called the blessing, this thing called the blessing. Once you catch a revelation of what the blessing is and what, do you have a revelation? You must have a revelation of the blessing. Give me a few minutes. Let me land this plane nicely. What does this thing look like? Let's rewind a little bit all the way to the beginning. This is what we call, you'll see it up on the screen just now, the etymology. Do you know what the word etymology means? The root of a word. When you look at the etymology of a word, where did the word come from? You good with that? Good. English lesson a little bit in Bible school here. So the etymology of the word bless, from an English word blesson, from an old English word blestian, which means to consecrate with blood. Interesting. It means it's from a German root, which means to sprinkle, to mark, to hallow, consecrate, consider holy because of blood. So the word bless, the Hebrew word bless, if you break it down again and look at its makeup, you will notice that bless and blood are the same thing. It's from the word barak. The word barak means, it has a number of meanings. One of them is the word spoken as in benediction, but it also means to bend the knee as in an act of worship or honor. Okay? You got that? So the act of blessing and somebody getting blessed meant the person had to bend the knee in order to create a gradient within which the blessing was to flow. You cannot receive the blessing at the same level of the blesser. Simple principle. So when Yaakov came to his father, when it was now time to bless him, he had to position himself before his father so that there is a gradient for receiving the blessing, the barak, the words, the benediction, the words that were to create an environment around him that would place a demand for all his brothers to honor and serve him. Are you still here? Very good. So, it's good keeping up with me there. But go back a little bit. Now let me give you on the other slide. Number 13. If you were to read Hebrews chapter 9, verse 14 to verse 25, you're introduced to a very interesting discourse that Paul goes on to. He begins to give an analysis of what the children of Israel were doing in the Old Testament when the blood was shed, and they took the blood and sprinkled it on the tent and all the furniture in the tent. And then he makes the statement that now we see and understand that everything was sanctified, made holy by blood. And without the shedding of blood, there is no consecration, there is no sanctification, because God had already said, do not eat an animal with its blood within it, for the life of the animal is in the blood. So they had to make sure the animal had no blood when they cook it or roast it or prepare it for a meal. Why? Because the life of a thing is in the blood. Amen? You got that? And then he helps us to understand that, okay, in that case it was the blood of bulls and goats, but now it is the blood of Jesus, who when he died rose from the dead and had to follow the pattern that was given in the Old Testament, which was the pattern that was given to Moses when he was up on the mountain. What was the pattern? That he was to sanctify, he was to hallow the heavenly holy, the earthly holy of holies, in the same way that the heavenly holy of holies was sanctified by the blood. So Moses saw that when he was on the mountain. So Jesus, in order to fulfill the earthly requirements, the preconditions, he had to follow the pattern. That's why the word of God says again in Hebrews that he had to give that instruction to Moses, because he knew that Moses was going to follow the instruction to the T. And now Jesus comes in to follow the pattern that was given to Moses based on what is happening in heaven. So they take the blood of bulls and goats that are offered as a sacrifice, and they sprinkle on the furniture and on the tabernacle to make it holy, or for it to be blessed, or for it, like we opened up in our opening remarks, to have a mark on it, and therefore have the blessing of God, the presence of God, the authorization of God, the signature of God, God identifying that the blood that's there and the blood that's on this thing is the same. Therefore, I can dwell in the tabernacle. Are you still here? Are you still here? Are you still here? So Jesus dies on the cross. He's shed his blood in 7 different ways. That blood must be carried, of necessity, must be carried to the heavenly holy of holies to fulfill the requirements of what is inscribed. So Jesus rises from the dead, and Mary is at the tomb. Jesus is on his way to heaven. Mary arrives at the tomb with a distraught heart, and she's crying. By virtue of the principle, Jesus has to come back. So he comes back and he sees Mary and he says, "Why are you crying?" He says, "For my master, my Lord, they have taken him and I don't know where they have put him." Then he says to her, "Mary," and then he says to her, "Rabboni." She recognizes that it is Jesus. In her excitement, she runs to embrace him, and Jesus says, "Touch me not, for I have not yet ascended to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Something is about to happen that is going to create a oneness. For him to say, "My God and your God, my Father and your Father," means you have become one blood. In other words, we're about to do a DNA test. We're about to do a paternity issue thing here. We're about to make you one blood with the Father, so that everything that belongs to the Father becomes yours. So I've not yet ascended to my Father and to your Father, to my God and your God. So don't touch me, because if you do, you are unclean. You will contaminate the blood that I'm about to present before the Holy of Holies. So don't touch me. Don't touch me. You can cry, but don't touch me. I came back to attend to you and give you peace that everything is okay, but don't touch me. And then Jesus ascends up to heaven, to the Holy of Holies, makes a presentation, sprinkles everything with his blood, thereby making God and us one blood. And then when he comes back, he's now meeting with the disciples, and they're in a state of unbelief. And he says, "Why do you doubt? Why do you doubt? Come, touch me. Put your hand in my side. Put your fingers in the holes. For I'm not a spirit. For a spirit does not have flesh and bone." Not flesh and blood, because there was no more blood. was no more blood. The blood was in heaven. So now he says, I've completed the process. And just like in biology, the thing that connects children to their parents is their blood. So all my children have a part of me in their blood and a part of their mother in their blood. Remember your biology lessons? Good. Glad you remember that. So now I am one blood. So what has this got to do with this blessing thing, this barak thing? Let's look at the next slide. Look at the next slide. It says there on that slide, the blood gives boldness and access to everything that belongs to us. That statement is powerful. The etymology of Adam. The word Adam comes from a classical Hebrew word which means earth, man, soil. That's beautiful. Genesis 2 speaks of the forming of Adam out of the dust of the ground. The word is related to Adamah, which means ground. The D-A-M in Adam, or it's actually Hadam, is the same word dom. Dom is the word that is connected to blood. So there was blood in Adam that made him a living being. And his blood was one blood with God because he was, the Bible says in the New Testament, when it gives you that whole genealogy of so-and-so was the son of so-and-so and so-and-so. And then it says, and Adam, who was the son of God. In other words, he carried the blood of God, the DNA of God in his system. Are you still okay? Are you still okay? It's going to be good just now. This is just point number one. We're closing. We're closing. It's time to go home and have lunch. So, Adam means dark, ready, earthy in texture. So he was a dark textured man, like I told you last week. He had blood in him which connected him with God. Therefore, everything that belonged to God belonged to Adam by virtue of blood.